The arrival. The vast expanse of space stretched out before the Galactic Union Education Station, a gleaming beacon of interspecies cooperation and learning. Among the stars, it hung like a jewel, housing thousands of students from across the known universe. Today, however, the station buzzed with an unusual energy as news spread of a new arrival, a human physical education teacher. Commander Zixlorp, a gelatinous being from the methane swamps of Epsilon Eridani, oozed nervously in his office. His pseudopods quivered as he addressed the small bipedal creature standing before him. "Professor Jack Armstrong," Zixlorp gurgled through his translator. "I must confess, we are apprehensive about your appointment. Humans have a reputation for being, shall we say, intense." Jack grinned, his white teeth gleaming in stark contrast to his dark skin. "Commander, I assure you, I'm here to broaden horizons, not cause trouble. Besides, a little intensity never hurt anyone." Zixlorp's translucent body flickered with doubt. "That remains to be seen, Professor. Your species hails from a death world. Your games and sports are often violent by our standards." "That's why I'm here," Jack replied, his voice filled with enthusiasm. "To show that human physical education isn't just about violence or competition. It's about teamwork, strategy, and most importantly, fun." The commander's eye stalks wavered skeptically. "And how do you propose to do that?" Jack's grin widened. "With a game that's been a staple of human PE for centuries. Dodgeball." The word hung in the air, alien and ominous. Zixlorp's gelatinous form rippled with concern. "Dodge, ball. It sounds violent." "It's not as bad as it sounds," Jack assured him. "It's a game of skill, agility, and teamwork. Trust me, your students will love it." As they made their way to the station's cavernous gymnasium, whispers and murmurs followed them. Alien students of all shapes and sizes pressed against the corridors, eager to catch a glimpse of the human teacher. "Is it true they can lift 10 times their body weight? I heard they breathe fire when angry. My cousin said they eat rocks for breakfast." Jack chuckled to himself, amused by the outlandish rumors. If only they knew that most humans struggle to open pickle jars. The gymnasium doors slid open with a soft hiss, revealing a sea of alien faces. Some floated, some crawled, others stood on multiple legs or tentacles. All eyes, stalks, and sensory organs were fixed on Jack. "Good morning, class," Jack's voice boomed across the room. "I'm Professor Armstrong, your new PE teacher. Today, we're going to learn a game that's been a favorite on Earth for generations." A collective shudder ran through the alien students. What terrifying death world sport was this human about to unleash upon them? Jack held up a soft, red rubber ball. "This," he announced dramatically, "is a dodgeball." Confused murmurs rippled through the crowd. A brave Arcturian student with iridescent scales raised a fin. "Excuse me, Professor, but what is the purpose of this dodgeball?" "Excellent question." Jack tossed the ball from hand to hand. "The purpose is simple. You throw it at your opponents, and they try to dodge it. If you hit someone, they're out. If they catch it, you're out." Horror spread across the alien faces. A vegan gas cloud pulsed rapidly, its voice box vibrating with panic. You want us to assault each other with projectiles." Jack laughed, a warm, reassuring sound. "It's not an assault. The balls are soft. See?" He bounced one off his head to demonstrate. "The goal isn't to hurt anyone. It's about reflexes, teamwork, and having fun." A Betelgeusian centipede-like creature chittered nervously. "But Professor, many of us have vastly different physiologies. How can this be fair?" "That's the beauty of it," Jack explained. "Everyone has different strengths and weaknesses. Some of you might be fast, others might have great catching abilities. The key is to work together and use your unique talents." Slowly, curiosity began to replace fear in the eyes of the students. A young Syrian, resembling a sentient crystal formation, sparkled with interest. "It sounds intriguing. How do we begin?" Jack's face lit up. First, we'll divide into teams. Then I'll explain the rules in more detail, and we'll have a practice round. Don't worry, I'll go easy on you at first. As Jack began organizing the students, Commander Zixlor watched from the sidelines, his gelatinous form rippling with a mix of anxiety and fascination. He couldn't shake the feeling that this human and his strange game were about to turn the station upside down. Little did he know just how right he was. As the first rubber ball arced through the air, a new era of intergalactic physical education was about to begin. The students of the Galactic Union Education Station were about to learn that sometimes the most valuable lessons come from the most unexpected places, even a death world called Earth. The first match. The gymnasium buzzed with nervous energy as Professor Jack Armstrong divided the alien students into two teams. On one side, a motley crew of beings from across the galaxy huddled together, their appendages trembling slightly. The other team wasn't faring much better. A collection of tentacles, fins, and exoskeletons quivering in anticipation. "All right, folks," Jack called out, his voice echoing in the cavernous space. "Remember the basics. Throw the ball at the opposing team. If you're hit, you're out. If you catch a ball thrown at you, the thrower is out, and you can bring one of your teammates back in. Any questions?" At Proxima Centaurian, its body a swirling mist of pastel colors, raised a vaporous tendril. "Professor, what if we don't have arms to throw with?" Jack grinned. "Excellent question. Use whatever appendage works best for you. Tentacles, tails, telekinesis. It's all fair game. The important thing is to participate and have fun." With a sharp whistle blast, Jack signaled the start of the game. For a moment, nothing happened. The alien students stared at each other, then at the colorful rubber balls scattered across the center line. "Come on, guys," Jack encouraged. "Grab the balls and start throwing." Hesitantly, a brave Andromedan with 4 arms scuttled forward. It scooped up a ball with its lower set of hands, and with its upper arms, launched it across the court. The ball sailed through the air in a graceful arc, and passed harmlessly through the gaseous body of a Neptunian student. "Oh my!" the Neptunian wheezed, its voice like a gentle breeze. "Was that supposed to hurt?" Jack couldn't help but chuckle. "Not hurt, but you're out. Head to the sidelines, please." Confusion rippled through both teams. The Andromedan looked crestfallen. But I didn't hit anything solid." "Ah, but you hit your target," Jack explained. "In this game, intention matters as much as physical contact. You aimed, you threw, and the ball passed through their body. That counts." As the Neptunian floated to the sidelines, a new understanding dawned on the alien students. Suddenly, the gymnasium erupted into chaos. Balls flew in every direction. A Betelgeusian centipede curled its body into a wheel, rolling balls towards the opposite team with surprising accuracy. A crystalline Sirian refracted the light around itself, becoming nearly invisible as it dodged incoming projectiles. On the other side, a vegan gas cloud pulsed rapidly, creating small vortexes to redirect balls back at the opposing team. A multi-limbed Octarian juggled several balls at once, its tentacles a blur of motion as it launched a barrage of throws. Jack watched in awe as the alien students began to embrace the game, their initial fear transforming into excitement and competitive spirit. "That's it," he shouted encouragingly. "Use your unique abilities. Work together." As the match progressed, unexpected talents emerged. A timid-looking Aldebaranian, resembling a sentient plant, surprised everyone by using its vines to snatch balls out of the air with incredible precision. A bulky Tau Satan, initially thought to be an easy target due to its size, demonstrated remarkable agility, twisting its gelatinous body to avoid incoming throws. Commander Zixlor, still watching from the sidelines, found his anxiety slowly being replaced by fascination. The students weren't just playing. They were adapting, strategizing, and most surprisingly, laughing. Remarkable, he murmured, his eye stalks swiveling to follow the action. They're actually enjoying this primitive Earth game. As the match neared its end, only a handful of students remained on each side. The gymnasium echoed with cheers and shouts of encouragement from those who had been eliminated. In a final dramatic moment, the last two players faced off. On one side, a lithe Arcturian with iridescent scales. On the other, a stocky Rigelian with 4 powerful arms. The Arcturian moved with fluid grace, its scales shimmering as it dodged throw after throw. The Rigelian, frustrated but determined, gathered the remaining balls. "You can't dodge forever." The Rigelian bellowed, its voice like rolling thunder. The Arcturian's fins quivered in what might have been a smile. "Perhaps not, but I can certainly try." In a last-ditch effort, the Rigelian launched all 4 balls simultaneously. The Arcturian leaped, twisted, and contorted its body in ways that seemed to defy physics. 3 balls whizzed past, missing by mere millimeters. But the fourth connected with a soft thwap against the Arcturian's tail. A moment of silence fell over the gymnasium, broken by Jack's whistle. Game over. Congratulations to the winning team. The gymnasium erupted in cheers. Students from both teams rushed to congratulate each other, chattering excitedly about their newfound skills and the thrill of the game. As Jack began to gather the balls, he noticed Commander Zixlorp approaching, the gelatinous being's body rippling with an unreadable emotion. "Professor Armstrong," Zixlorp began, his tone serious, "I must admit, I had my doubts about this dodgeball. But seeing the students today, their enthusiasm, their cooperation, it's unlike anything I've witnessed in my years as an educator." Jack smiled, wiping sweat from his brow. "That's the beauty of sports, Commander. It's not just about physical fitness. It's about bringing people, or in this case, beings, together, breaking down barriers, fostering understanding." Zixlorp's eye stalks quivered in what Jack had come to recognize as a sign of agreement. "Indeed, perhaps we've underestimated the value of these human physical education methods. I believe we may need to reconsider our entire PE curriculum." As they watched the students excitedly discussing the game, forming new friendships across species lines, Jack couldn't help but feel a sense of pride. This was just the beginning. Dodgeball had opened a door, and who knew what other human games might revolutionize intergalactic education. Little did Jack know, news of the exciting new Earth sport was already spreading through the station's communication channels. Soon, students from other classes would be clamoring to join, and the galaxy would never be the same. As the first dodgeball match in space came to an end, a new chapter in intergalactic relations was just beginning. And at the center of it all was a simple red rubber ball, a human teacher, and a gymnasium full of aliens who had just discovered the joy of play. The evolution. As weeks passed, dodgeball fever swept through the Galactic Union Education Station like a supernova. What had started as a curious Earth game in Jack Armstrong's PE class had become the talk of the station. Alien students from all corners of the galaxy clamored to join in. And soon, impromptu matches were breaking out in corridors and common areas. Jack watched with a mixture of pride and amusement as the game evolved in ways he could never have imagined. The aliens weren't just playing dodgeball, they were reinventing it. One particularly memorable incident occurred during a match between the Saturnians and the Andromedans. The Saturnian team, composed of ring-like beings, had developed a strategy of interlocking to form a massive rotating shield. Balls bounced harmlessly off their unified form as they rolled across the court, flattening everything in their path. "Now, wait a minute," Jack had intervened, blowing his whistle. "That's not exactly in the spirit of the game." The Saturnian captain, a being named Rings within Rings, unlinked from his teammates. "But Professor, you said to use our unique abilities. Is this not a demonstration of Saturnian unity and strength?" Jack scratched his head. "Well, yes, but, oh, all right. We'll call it a legal move, but let's implement a time limit on formations, shall we? As the game resumed, Jack couldn't help but chuckle. Who would have thought he'd be making up rules for dodgeball played by sentient hula hoops? But it wasn't all fun and games. Cultural misunderstandings led to some interesting situations. During one particularly intense match, a Betelgeusian player was struck by a ball and promptly split into two identical beings. The opposing team cried foul, claiming it was an illegal substitution. "It's not substitution, it's mitosis," the Betelgeusians protested in unison. Jack had to call a timeout to explain the concept of asexual reproduction to the bewildered non-Betelgeusian players, and to establish new rules for species with unconventional biological processes. As dodgeball's popularity grew, so did its influence. Jack began to notice changes in the station's social dynamics. Species that had once kept to themselves were now intermingling, bonding over shared experiences on the dodgeball court. The Arcturians and vegans, long-standing rivals due to a millennia-old trade dispute, were seen sharing meals in the cafeteria, excitedly discussing strategy for their upcoming match. The normally solitary Tassetans had formed a book club with the gregarious Regelians, their first topic of discussion being The Art of War by Sun Tzu, which they deemed essential reading for dodgeball tactics. Even Commander Zixlorp had caught the dodgeball bug. Jack often spotted the gelatinous administrator lurking at the edges of the gymnasium, his eye stalks riveted on the games. When questioned, Zixlorp would claim he was merely observing for administrative purposes, but Jack didn't miss the way the commander's pseudopods twitched excitedly whenever a particularly impressive play was made. However, not everyone was thrilled with the new state of affairs. Professor Xlorx, the Zorblaxian physical education teacher, viewed the human game with disdain. "This dodgeball is a mockery of true physical education," Xlorx gurgled one day, confronting Jack in the teacher's lounge. The Zorblaxian's tentacles writhed with indignation. Where is the discipline? The rigid structure? The multi-dimensional calculus required for proper movement? Jack sipped his coffee calmly. Physical education isn't just about discipline, Xlorx. It's about joy, teamwork, and adapting to unexpected situations. Dodgeball teaches all of that. Xlorx's eye stalks quivered with barely contained rage. Joy? Teamwork? Bah! In my class, students learn the true meaning of physical prowess through our traditional Zorblaxian sport of quantum leapfrog. Jack raised an eyebrow. Quantum leapfrog? Yes, Xlorx exclaimed. Players must calculate the quantum probability of their position in multiple universes while simultaneously leaping over their opponents. It's been the cornerstone of Zorblaxian physical education for eons. Jack struggled to keep a straight face. That sounds intense, but surely there's room for both of our methods. Xlorx's tentacles coiled tightly. We shall see, human. I challenge you and your dodgeball players to a contest against my quantum leapfrog champions. We'll settle this debate once and for all. As Xlorx slithered away, Jack let out a long sigh. He had come to the station to broaden horizons, not to start an intergalactic sports rivalry. But if that's what it took to prove the value of dodgeball, then so be it. Word of the impending showdown spread through the station like wildfire. Students debated passionately in the hallways, taking sides and making predictions. Some even began underground betting pools, wagering quatlus and zorlats on the outcome. Jack knew he had to prepare his team for the challenge ahead. But how do you train for a game that involves quantum mechanics and interdimensional travel? As he pondered this question, Jack realized that the true test wouldn't be about winning or losing. It would be about showing the entire station. No, the entire galaxy. The true spirit of dodgeball. The spirit of adaptation, creativity, and coming together despite differences. With renewed determination, Jack headed to the gymnasium. He had a team to train, a point to prove, and a galaxy to unite. And it all hinged on a simple game with rubber balls. As he pushed open the gym doors, greeted by the excited chatter of his alien students, Jack couldn't help but smile. Win or lose, this was going to be one for the intergalactic history books. Little did he know, the upcoming clash between Dodgeball and Quantum Leapfrog would set in motion events that would reshape the very fabric of galactic society. But for now, there were drills to run, strategies to devise, and most importantly, a team to inspire. Let the games begin. The tournament. The day of the great showdown arrived, and the Galactic Union Education Station buzzed with an energy that threatened to shake it out of orbit. The cavernous main hangar had been transformed into a grand arena, with stands erected to accommodate spectators from every corner of the galaxy. Jack stood at the entrance, his heart pounding with a mixture of excitement and trepidation. His team of Dodgeball All-Stars shuffled nervously behind him, a motley crew of beings that represented the best the galaxy had to offer. "Remember," Jack said, turning to face his team, "it's not about winning or losing. It's about showing everyone the true spirit of Dodgeball." Zorp, a Betelgeusian with lightning-quick reflexes, split into two identical beings and spoke in stereo. "But Professor, we really want to win." Jack chuckled. "Well, yes, winning would be nice. But more importantly, let's show them what we've learned about teamwork and adaptability." As they entered the arena, Jack's jaw dropped. The place was packed to the rafters with aliens of all shapes and sizes. Some floated, some crawled, others defied description entirely. In the center, a bizarre contraption had been set up, half dodgeball court, half quantum physics experiment. Professor Xlorx slithered up, his tentacles rippling with smug confidence. "Ah, Armstrong, ready to see how a real sport is played." Before Jack could respond, Commander Xlorx's voice boomed through the speakers. "Welcome, one and all, to the first-ever Intergalactic Physical Education Championship." In the red corner, Xlorx continued, "We have the Dodgeball Dynamos, led by Earth's own Professor Jack Armstrong." Jack's team waved enthusiastically, drawing a mix of cheers and curious murmurs from the crowd. And in the blue corner, the Quantum Leapfrog Legends, led by the esteemed Professor Xlorx. Xlorx's team emerged, each member equipped with what looked like a combination of a calculator and a pogo stick. "The rules are simple," Xlorx explained, though Jack doubted anything involving quantum mechanics could be considered simple. "Each team will play their respective sport. Points will be awarded based on successful plays, with bonus points for any cross-sport interactions. May the best sport win." As the starting whistle blew, chaos erupted. Jack's team sprang into action, dodgeballs flying in all directions. Meanwhile, Xlorx's team began an elaborate series of calculations, their pogo stick devices humming ominously. What followed was perhaps the strangest sporting event in galactic history. Dodgeballs whizzed through the air, occasionally phasing in and out of reality as they intersected with quantum probability fields. The quantum leapfroggers bounded across the court in gravity-defying leaps, sometimes disappearing entirely only to reappear in unexpected locations. Jack watched in awe as his team adapted to the insanity unfolding around them. Zorp, the Betelgeusian, used his split forms to create confusion among the quantum leapers. Gloop, a Tau-Cetan with remarkable elasticity, stretched himself into impossible shapes to avoid both dodgeballs and interdimensional jumpers. But the real surprise came from Twinkle, a timid Aldebaranian who had always struggled with the physical aspects of dodgeball. As a particularly tricky quantum leap sent a Zorblaxian player hurtling towards her, Twinkle's bioluminescent fronds began to pulse rapidly. Suddenly, she emitted a dazzling burst of light that momentarily disrupted the quantum fields, sending the leaper tumbling harmlessly to the ground. "Incredible." Xlorx's voice echoed through the arena. An unprecedented interaction between bioluminescence and quantum fields. 10 bonus points to the Dodgeball Dynamos. The game continued, each moment more unpredictable than the last. Dodgeballs curved in impossible arcs, guided by gravitational anomalies. Quantum leapers found themselves dodging more often than leaping. At one point, a particularly powerful leap collided with a well-thrown dodgeball, creating a miniature wormhole that swallowed several balls before winking out of existence. As the final seconds ticked down, the score was tied. In a last-ditch effort, Slorx's star player calculated a complex quantum trajectory, aiming to score a game-winning leap. But just as he activated his pogo stick, Zorp launched a dodgeball with pinpoint accuracy. Time seemed to slow as the ball and the leaper converge. The crowd held its breath, thousands of eyes and other sensory organs fixed on the spectacle. In a flash of light and a pop of displaced air, both the ball and the leaper vanished. A hush fell over the arena. Where had they gone? Had they been lost to some distant corner of the multiverse? Suddenly, a shimmering portal opened above the court. The Zorblaxian player tumbled out, the dodgeball clutched firmly in his tentacles. He hit the ground with a soft thud, clearly dazed but unharmed. For a moment, nobody moved. Then, slowly, the Zorblaxian raised the dodgeball above his head. I caught it," he said, his voice filled with wonder. The arena erupted in cheers. It wasn't clear who had won or lost, but it didn't seem to matter. Players from both teams rushed to congratulate each other, marveling at the impossible plays they had just witnessed and performed. As Jack made his way through the celebrating crowd, he felt a tap on his shoulder. He turned to find Professor Slorx, looking somewhat deflated but with a newfound glimmer of respect in his eye stalks. "Well played, Armstrong," Slorx gurgled. "Perhaps there is more to this dodgeball than I initially thought." Jack grinned, extending his hand. "And I have to admit, quantum leapfrog is far more exciting than I imagined. Maybe we could look into creating a hybrid sport." Slorx's tentacles wiggled in what Jack had come to recognize as a Zorblaxian smile. "Quantum dodgeball. Leapfrog ball. We'll work on the name." As they shook hands, or hand and tentacle, Jack realized that something profound had occurred. In the midst of this chaotic, impossible game, barriers had been broken. Species that had never interacted were now chatting excitedly about the match. Ideas were being exchanged. Friendships formed. Commander Zixlorp oozed up to them, his gelatinous form quivering with excitement. "Professors, that was revolutionary," Jack suggested. "Unprecedented," added Slorx. Zixlorp's eye stalks bobbed enthusiastically. "Both. And more. I just received word from the Galactic Education Board. They want to implement a new combined physical education curriculum across all member planets." As the implications of this sank in, Jack couldn't help but laugh. He had come to this station to teach dodgeball, and somehow he had ended up changing the face of galactic education. Looking around at the joyous faces and other alien approximations of faces surrounding him, Jack felt a surge of pride. This was what sports were truly about: bringing people together, fostering understanding, and yes, having a ridiculous amount of fun in the process. As the celebration continued around him, Jack couldn't help but wonder, what other earthly games might the galaxy be ready for? Capture the flag with actual captured stars. Hide and seek across multiple dimensions. The possibilities, like the universe itself, were endless. And Jack Armstrong, the humble PE teacher from Earth, was ready to explore them all, one game at a time. The final showdown. In the months following the historic Dodgeball versus Quantum Leapfrog match, the Galactic Union Education Station had transformed into a hub of interspecies sporting events. The newly formed Department of Terrestrial and Extraterrestrial Physical Education, DTEP, had been working overtime to create a curriculum that blended the best of both worlds. Jack Armstrong found himself at the center of it all, collaborating with Professor Slorx and other alien PE teachers to develop games that challenged both body and mind across multiple dimensions. Their latest creation, Schrödinger's Capture the Flag, had become an overnight sensation, despite the occasional lost player who ended up simultaneously captured and not captured. But today was special. It marked the culmination of their efforts. The first annual Intergalactic School Olympics. Teams from across the galaxy had gathered to compete in a series of events that pushed the boundaries of physics, biology, and sportsmanship. As Jack stood in the opening ceremony, watching the parade of athletes, some walking, some floating, some existing in probabilistic clouds, he couldn't help but feel a sense of awe. Who would have thought that a simple game of dodgeball would lead to this? Commander Sixlorp's voice boomed through the station. Welcome, beings of all shapes, sizes, and dimensional states. Today, we celebrate not just athletic prowess, but the unity of our galactic community. The crowd erupted in a cacophony of cheers, roars, and harmonic resonances. As the games began, Jack found himself darting from event to event, marveling at the spectacles before him. In the anti-gravity gymnastics arena, lithe Venusians twisted through impossible shapes, their bodies bending light itself. The black hole shot put saw neutronians launching miniature singularities with terrifying accuracy, and the telepathic synchronized swimming event was a mind-bending display of coordinated thought and motion. But it was the final event that everyone was waiting for, the ultimate dodgeball championship. Teams from across the galaxy have been training for months, each bringing their unique physiologies and cultural strategies to the game. As Jack took his place in the commentator's booth alongside Slorks, he felt a mix of excitement and nostalgia. Can you believe it, Slorks? All of this from a simple Earth game. Slorks's tentacles wiggled in amusement. Simple. I've calculated the quantum trajectories of neutron stars with less complexity than some of these dodgeball plays. The match began, and immediately the arena was a blur of motion. The Andromeda Annihilators faced off against the Milky Way Marauders in a display of intergalactic prowess. Balls flew at relativistic speeds, curving around gravity wells created by the team's resident shins. A Betelgeuse player split into a dozen copies, each launching a synchronized barrage. In retaliation, an Arcturian defender phased out of normal spacetime, the balls passing harmlessly through their non-corporeal form. Incredible, Jack exclaimed into the mic. The Annihilators are using a Fibonacci spiral formation, capitalizing on the golden ratio's natural occurrence in their home galaxy. Slorks's eye stalks quivered with excitement. Indeed. But look at the Marauders' defense. They've quantum entangled their consciousness, allowing for instantaneous team-wide communication. Brilliant strategy. As the game reached its climax, both teams were tied. The tension in the arena was palpable, every being on the edge of their seat, or whatever they used for sitting. In the final seconds, the ball was in the hands, or tentacles, of Zlob, a rookie Zorlak player known more for his enthusiasm than his skill. Every eye in the galaxy seemed to be on him as he wound up for the throw. Time slowed. Jack held his breath. Zlob released the ball, and promptly tripped over his own tentacles, sending the ball spinning wildly off course. The crowd gasped. It seemed like a disastrous end to an otherwise spectacular game. But then, something incredible happened. The ball, tumbling chaotically, began to glow. It picked up speed, trailing fire as it cut through the air. Players dove out of its way as it ricocheted off walls, floors, and ceilings. Great galaxies, Slorks exclaimed. The spin imparted by Zlob's stumble, combined with the residual quantum fields in the arena, has created a hyperdimensional curveball. The ball continued its improbable journey, narrowly missing players from both teams. In a final, physics-defying arc, it curved around behind the Annihilator's last player, tapping them gently on the back before coming to rest. Silence fell over the arena. Then, slowly, realization dawned. The Milky Way Marauders had won, thanks to the most improbable play in the history of the sport. The stadium erupted in cheers. Players from both teams rushed to congratulate Zlob, who stood in dazed disbelief at what he'd accomplished. As the celebration raged on, Jack felt a tug at his sleeve. He looked down to see Tinks, a young Proximan student whose gaseous form shimmered with excitement. Professor Armstrong. Tinks bubbled. "I've been thinking, what if we combine dodgeball with zero-gravity laser tag and temporal hide-and-seek?" Jack laughed, patting the gaseous student affectionately. "That sounds incredible, Tinks. Why don't you work up some rules and we'll give it a try next semester?" As Tinks floated away, bursting with ideas, Jack gazed out over the arena. Beings from across the cosmos were mingling, laughing, and excitedly discussing the game. Lifelong friendships were being forged, cultural barriers were breaking down, and the seeds of countless future innovations were being planted. In that moment, Jack realized that they had created something far greater than a new sport or curriculum. They had built a bridge between worlds, a common ground where beings of all kinds could come together in the spirit of play and discovery. Commander Zixlorp oozed up beside him, his gelatinous form rippling with contentment. "You've done well, Armstrong. The Galactic Education Board is calling this the dawn of a new era in interstellar relations." Jack smiled, watching as a group of students from a dozen different species excitedly planned their next game. "It's a good start, Commander, but something tells me we're just getting warmed up." As the stadium lights dimmed and the excited chatter of thousands of beings filled the air, Jack couldn't help but chuckle at the strange and wonderful journey that had led him here. From a simple game of dodgeball to the forefront of galactic unity, it was, without a doubt, the greatest play he'd ever made. And somewhere out there, in the vast expanse of space, a red rubber ball continued its unlikely journey, a silent ambassador of Earth's gift to the galaxy, the joy of play.